Welcome to another EverybodyHatesCleveland.com podcast. I'm your host, Jim Pete, today joined by two fellow Everybody Hate Cleveland writers. We have a newbie with our podcast from the Tribe Daily, the Cleveland Fan, IBI, STO. If I forget anything, Nino, feel free to jump in. But
I think you got them all.
Nino's with us today, as well as the old staple, Mike Hattery. Guys, I'd like to say we've got a lot of positive things to talk about. There are some positive things to talk about, actually, but the Indians are 6-13, and as we've been pounded with today, if you're listening to the radio or watching Twitter, this worst record, their worst start since 1992, which is pretty resounding, I think, with this team since the 90s. We've had some pretty bad teams. It is 6-13, so I guess it's all, it is what it is. Is it too early to worry, that kind of thing? But let's just kind of throw it out there. If there's one thing to really be worried about, what is it? Is it runs scored? Is it personnel? Is it how the personnel is getting handled? Is it all of the above? Is this team just not good? Nino, I'm going to throw it to you first. This is your first travels with us at EHC, the podcast. What are your thoughts? I mean, we see your Twitter. I think we could probably figure it out. But
I don't know. I don't know if maybe it was something every day. It just seems like it's never the same thing. Every day it's something different. Whether it's the bullpen, whether it's the starters not going out and doing their job, the offense isn't scoring. It seems like it's the offense more than not. Just no consistency whatsoever. I just don't think that there is any sort of cohesion with the team as a whole right now, and that's probably the biggest issue. No footing. And I don't know if this happened last year. It didn't happen to this magnitude with just how bad they've looked in certain games, but I just think there's just a lack of consistency right now, and they need to find something that will pull them together. I don't know what it is.
Mike
Everybody just needs to get on the page, but
it is something different every game, and even if it's the bullpen, we had Atchison last night. We've had Shaw. We've had different guys. We have different lineups. We have really, you could point to. You talked about the offense. There's really not anybody hitting right now other than Brantley. Moss is picking it up. But the bulk of this lineup is really struggling. Yan Gomes being out is a big deal. Mike, I know, we've had a lot of conversations off the air, a lot of conversations on Twitter. I don't know if conversation's the right word. Talking about the roster makeup. There does seem to be some issues in the lineup, top to bottom. When Sands is kind of taken care of right now, but that bottom of the order looks fairly weak, especially with J-Ram not playing well. Gomes being gone is definitely a big deal at right-handed bat. In the top of the order, trying to figure that top of the order out, first with Bourne, now with Kipnis there, he's not really hitting much better, and finding a number 2 hitter. I know Mike Aviles is your favorite player. What's the answer going forward? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to serve that up for you.
Yeah, I have to respond in a different way now. I don't know.
I like to poke and prod. I can't help it.
I'm super patient with this roster because there's so much talent on it. I think you look at Moss, Santana, you look at Brantley, they're all impact players at the position. Losing Gomes, I think, is a big deal to me, as much for the makeup of Gomes as for the production. The production is outstanding, great defender, really good bat at his position, but I think if there's anybody who offers a certain intensity and a certain fire, I think Kipnis has it too. But I think one of the things with Brantley and Kluber, they're lead by example guys, and that's great. But I think it's really tough when the rest of the roster is struggling. I struggle with your 2 anchor players being really quiet and subdued guys. I think sometimes I love these guys; they're immense talents. But I think sometimes you need something a little fiery. And I honestly have very low expectations for Mitch Fisher, but I would say that he would make a really nice difference right now, just because he's cocky as hell. And that might be might be something we need. Offensively, I'm not super concerned long term. The bullpen, and the front four and the rotation look really good, which are really positive to me. I mean, the offense here. The bullpen scares the death out of me. It was a bullpen that was held together by Cody Allen last year, and Shaw to a lesser extent. A lot of overuse of those guys. Atchison was never going to repeat his performance last year. That's really scary to me. That's super scary. I think that'll be bullpen and defense are going to be a narrative for a long time this year. It's just how much the hitting, when it rebounds, how much it can overcome.
Well, the bullpen, if you look last year, you had Shaw, Cody, and both with massive amounts of innings, a lot of appearances. I think both were in the top 10 in appearances. Who am I forgetting? Someone else was up there too. Wasn't Atchison, was it?
Zebchinsky, probably.
Yeah, it was clear that Allen and Shaw in September were not the same pitchers that they were. It seems like they've walked right back into that. If Shaw and Allen aren't pitching well, I know we've got depth in Columbus, and there are some good young arms, past Ryan Webb, who got called up today. If Cody Allen and Brian Shaw aren't up to snuff, aren't average or better, is this team done? I mean, can they overcome? Do they have enough to fill in, or do they have to make a trade? What do you think, Nino? I mean, what do you think about this bullpen?
I think that's the big unknown, and that's just from year to year. Bullpens are you just never know. You never know what you're going to get, because I mean, a lot of people are pointing to Brian Shaw. Well, he's thrown a ton of innings the past few seasons, and that's catching up with him. In my mind, that wouldn't catch up with him until he's fresh for the beginning of this season. So why is he struggling? So you just don't know. I wouldn't chalk it up to he's had a lot of innings. If Shaw and Allen are average or not up to snuff to what we've come to expect with them, I don't know. Anyone's guess is as good as mine. I mean, it's who's going to step up? You don't know. This first week, Hagedorn looked awful, and now he seems to have stabilized. But next week he could look back to being garbage again. You just don't know, and that's the frustrating part of it. It's not anything you could say. All right, that's the issue. Here's how we fix it. It's one of those spots on a baseball team that you just have to put a bunch of players in play, have a lot of depth, and hope it works out. And if the Indians do have that depth, it'll be tested if Allen and Shaw are not what they were last year.
Well, and we'll see. I mean, they do have some talented arms in Columbus. The fear I have is that we're talking about it at the end of April. This is something you don't want to worry about until, if you're in August and you're worrying about arms being tired. I mean, you nailed it on the head. I mean, even if they pitched too many innings last year, you want to see fresh arms in April, and that seems to make sense. You just never know. This overuse thing with regards to pitchers, I never really know how to take it. It's such a different world. Pitchers are prepared so differently than they were 20 years ago. It's hard to say. And these bullpens, I mean, we know in Cleveland better than anybody else. They're so hit and miss. And if you look at this club over the past 8 years, from really 06 through 05, really through now, the bad years have been bad bullpens with guys who were good the year prior. Or we lost a guy. Like if you go back to 05, 06, I think it was, who was it that we lost? Bob Howery, I think.
Bobby Howery, man.
Yeah, it's starting from there, you can point to the bullpen as being a major issue. That's the fear I think a lot of people have, especially when you talk about the starting rotation. One of the positives, these first four guys have looked very good. Now, Kluber struggled in his last two starts as the game is extended. God willing, we don't have to worry about Kluber, but what about this offense? They've struggled. They did put 5 up on the board yesterday, took the lead before the bullpen blew it. But guys like Kipnis not stepping up, maybe seeing some signs of life from Kipnis. Moss stepping up is a big deal. Santana's still doing what he does. But the bulk of this Chisenhall actually stepping up a little bit too. Are we starting to see maybe as we get closer to summer, are we starting to see these bats heat up? And if so, let's talk about roster configuration. I mean, do we have a true leadoff hitter? Do we have a guy for number 2? Will this thing get righted before Yan Gomes, or are we just waiting for that middle of the order guy to fix his team?
I think they're fine offensively. I think there are a bunch of roster issues which we can talk about, but I think I'll tell you, if Brantley, Santana, and Moss are healthy for a full year, and Kipnis does anything, and Swisher does anything, and Gomes is healthy for the last 3 months, you're really going to be fine offensively. We've had a bunch of weird sequencing issues, and also like the last week with Kipnis, I've seen a lot of really hard hit balls. The Detroit series, the final game, he went like 0 for 5, and I think he hit 3 line drives and 2 hard.
He looks like a different. He looks like a different player. Just the past week, and I agree, he looks like a different player. I haven't seen this Kipnis in a long time.
Defensively, he looks awesome, which is one of the coolest like small narratives on his team. Defensively, he looks super confident, which I never saw coming, and I love being wrong so much. So that's exciting. But I think the offense is fine. I think when you're struggling early, though, miscues and misuse gets highlighted big time. And Mike Aviles is one of the 5 worst frickin' baseball players in the last 3 years, and Francona is using him in the 2-hole, and I cannot fathom it. It is so embarrassing. Get your head out of your ass. You can believe that. I'm sorry, but come on.
I think we can let ass slide. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think. I mean, and Nino, I'm not even going to say anything. I mean, what are your thoughts? I'm a staunch defender of Francona. Mike can tell you this, and Mike and I have actually gone round and round about this. This veteran deal with him, with certain guys. I mean, you can understand it with performers. I think it's pretty clear Mike Aviles is a utility guy. I mean, I'm just going to leave it at that. There seems to be a lot of weight on Aviles, and I know some of that could be Gomes not being here, I guess. But how does this guy play center? How does this guy bat 2? He's almost treated like a regular. I mean, I don't get it. Like, I really don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either. And Tito seems to fall into this hole where, like, he'll play him like he should be playing him. Here and there in spots. When it makes sense, giving a guy a day off. But then Aviles will come in, he'll hit a homer, and then he's in the lineup for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's like what? We get it, but it's almost like too much of a good thing. Like, and it happens a lot. He puts him in there. He does a good job. He's like, oh well, Aviles, I'm gonna keep throwing him out there. I'm gonna put him in the 2-hole because our 2-holes, or we have to shift him down. We don't have one. So it's just I don't know why. A few years ago, Aviles maybe fit that super utility role where he's you could play him almost every day, but at a different position. But now he's a backup infielder, and that's really all he should be if he even should be on the team. But Francona likes him, and that's kind of where you go from, okay, we have a player, we know that he's X, Y, and Z based off statistics, based off performance, but then you put the human element into the game where you have quotes like Tito says, well, Mikey does a good job in center field, or we like what Mikey does. Well, okay, well, great, but that's the human element. That's where you look at Mike Aviles and you know that he's a good player and he's an even better teammate, and you're like, all right, that's the guy that I'm going to trust. And no one's as, I'm removed from the stat side of the game a lot of times, and I'm more of the, we need these rah-rah good spirit guys on the team, but enough with it with Aviles. I'm tired of it. He's not a center fielder. He's not a 2-hole hitter. He's not a regular starter, so we need to stop treating him as one.
I'm going to jump in here.
Well, wait. Let me just say one thing, because I know you're ready to rip the meat off the bone. But what I love about our site, and this is kind of a cheap plug, is I love it. At the beginning of the year, Adam Burke wrote this great piece on Aviles, and he mentioned three things. This is prior to the year. He mentioned batting second. He mentioned facing right-handed pitchers, and he mentioned facing right field or playing in the outfield. Not center. I don't even know that Adam could foresee that possibility. And then he had a video of a really great video of Aviles looking like an idiot in the outfield, which is pretty much every time he plays there. What I love about our site is we have a lot of these little tidbits, like from the off season, that have seemed to come to fruition in April. I guess my thing is like you, Nino. I mean, and Mike and I and Steve in the past on these podcasts have talked about guys like Jason Giambi, these rah-rah guys, Nick Swishers, and obviously there are moments in time you can think of where they've helped this team on and off the field. But geez, Mike, I mean, we're 6-13. We're so many games behind first already. I mean, there isn't a rah-rah guy. Maybe Swisher for the reasons you mentioned earlier, but Aviles doesn't perform.
You know what sucks the air out of me is, like, I don't want to hate Mike Aviles. Like, Terry Francona is making me hate Mike Aviles. Like, he's probably a really good guy, and he may be awesome in this locker room. So don't friggin' make me hate him, Terry. Don't misuse him so that I'm pissed at Mike Aviles because he's a good guy. I don't want to be pissed at Mike Aviles because he's a good guy. Secondarily, like, what message does this send to a starting pitcher or a reliever late in the game? Like, what message does that send to a contending team when Mike Aviles is in center field? Like, we're pissed off as fans. As a player, like, I don't know how to respect my manager when I know that Mike Aviles is not a good enough to play where he is.
Did you all have the same reaction I did when you heard that? Like, did you triple take? Like, I couldn't fathom it.
That's so unfair. Like, if you're up 13-1, you can put him in center. But if you're in a close ball game and I'm Cody Allen and I give up a kind of hard hit ball, but just a fly ball that's really playable, I'm as much pissed at my manager as I am at Mike Aviles, and that's not a good situation to be in. And when I'm batting after Mike Aviles and batting before him in the 2-hole, or when I'm Michael Brantley in the 4 or Moss in the 6 saying Mike Aviles is hitting second today, I'm not happy about that either. So I think this is a problem, and it affects players as much as it affects fans.
Well, and that's a great point, Mike. And you know my big thing. The thing about Francona that I've loved the most is he builds his trust with his team. This could backfire on him, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think I got nothing here.
I mean,
I got nothing else to say. I don't want to. I think one of the tough things too for a manager is, a lot of what they can do may be not visual, but right now everything Francona's done that's visual has been a big problem, and that's really hard because the only thing we can see is what's visual. So that might be unfair to Francona, but if this team's slumping and Terry's slumping as much as the rest of it.
Well, what's hard in the era of social media is being predictably bad, and when you are making moves and we all question those moves, and then it all comes. When he was standing out there in center field that day, we all thought it. I mean, I did. Is he going to screw this game up? And when it happens, and when it's happened multiple times, that's a problem. And I don't want to. I mean, I think we all know that's an issue. I don't know how that's going to get fixed, but that does segue into this. And I know the game's about to start, so we're going to close up shop here in a minute or two. But I do want to ask this question, and there's been a lot of banter. There's a lot of guys in Columbus right now kind of chomping at the bit, and I guess we should probably jump into the elephant in the room, and not just the elephant, but there's lots of other animals that are pawing at the cage. Francisco Lindor is playing well. He's hotter than hell offensively right now in Columbus, and as minor, all three of us following minor league teams over the years at IBI probably have maybe a lot more sense of where Lindor is compared to a lot of these other prospects we've seen. And this is a guy who a year and a half ago people started talking about maybe coming up. It seems to me that we're on the eve of Francisco Lindor, and not only that, but we've got guys like James Ramsey. We've got guys there like Carlos Moncrief, some guys behind the scenes. We've got Tyler Holt, just lots of other guys that are Zach Walters. That one's for you, Grim. We got a lot of guys. We got a lot of guys kind of chomping at the bit. A lot of holes. Is Lindor within weeks of coming up? And when I say weeks, I'm talking like 1 or 2. And do you see realistically Francona making any other moves other than Swisher? Because Swisher's going to clog that up a little bit. Is Murphy, and I don't know about Rayburn because he's playing well, but is Murphy, maybe that Murphy-Rayburn logjam about to get unclogged? Nino, what do you think?
It's funny because I was reading the Q&A with Ant Nettie the other day, and it's a fine line that you have to, that the whole Super 2 thing's there in terms of bringing Lindor up, but I think in their ideal world, they can bring Lindor up in a situation where the team's winning, and there's not a situation like, okay, we need, like right now, everyone's like, every 5 minutes or every time, Jose Ramirez makes an error or doesn't get a hit, everyone wants Francisco Lindor brought up. Where if that were to happen, okay, now the pressure's on and everyone's looking at him. They want him in the 2-hole. They want him, hitting up at the top of the lineup, and they want him producing the second he steps on the field. And I think that would be there regardless, but in the situation right now, it's a little bit more. So I think in their ideal world, they can turn this around here within the next few weeks and kind of stave off the talking of, okay, it's time to bring him up. You guys need to pull the trigger. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. Of course, when the starting shortstop is hitting below 200 and they keep seeing him make errors, as we talked about earlier, everything seems to get magnified a little bit. But it's just tough, especially with the start to the season that they're off to have a guy that's talked about and everyone says is the next big thing, and to not have the production from where he would play, that makes everyone kind of 10 times more eager to see what he's got, especially when he's in the minor leagues and hitting. So I think the next few weeks will be telling in terms of if the Indians are able to kind of turn it around here and kind of cool the Jets on the whole Lindor topic.
Mike, your thoughts? I mean, this is J-Ram we're talking about.
I love J-Ram. I think he's going to be a good big league player. But yeah, that's I think we're pretty close. We're 2 weeks from the Super 2 deadline, I think, right? I think it's mid-May, generally.
I think it is. I mean, I might be a little before mid-May. Yeah,
Yeah, my notion. It's a purely Super 2 issue, and that stinks. The whole collective bargaining around Super 2 kind of stinks. It stinks for Lindor that we do this to Lindor. It really does, and it stinks for Indians fans who have to wait to get better at shortstop. That's tough to me. I don't know why we went to an 8-man bullpen with 4 middle inning guys. I don't understand that. I don't understand how Anthony Schwarzak isn't cut for Ryan Webb and Sands isn't cut for Holt. That makes no sense. It's really stupid. You need a defender who can do center other than Bourne. And Brantley, if you're worried about his back, you're worried about his back, and he's never going to play there. Don't lie to yourself. So Holt's got to come up. He's raking in AAA. There's nothing left he can do there. He's not going to have any power in the big leagues, which is the problem. And he's probably just a fourth outfielder plus. But him platooning with Bourne is like kind of interesting in making center better, and him just playing defense instead of slow giraffe in right field and aging Bourne in center all the time sounds super cool. I don't know.
Well, and let me tell you something. I mean, you can say what you want about Tyler Holt and about his upside or whatever. if you've ever seen the kid play for any length of time, and we got to see him a little bit in Cleveland last year, this kid, you want to talk about rah-rah guys in the clubhouse, like this kid isn't that. What he is a guy who's going to run through a wall. And if this is what the Indians need. I mean, I can't figure out why he hasn't been with the club from the start, but that's a whole nother issue, as, of course, the Royals have their first 2 runners on base in the first inning. So maybe we better get off. Maybe we better get off here soon because I'm getting itchy right now. But you know, I guess so. So Mike, who's the guy? Who's coming up first? Who's the first guy offensively we're going to see not named Swisher?
You know, it really shouldn't. They're going to call up Lindor at Super T time. I just don't buy into them not. And also, I'm watching Columbus this weekend, so I kind of want to see him play.
We
so
talked about that.
Okay, so if they call him up right before Columbus, it'll be both too late and too early, which will really piss me off. But ultimately, I think they wait for Lindor to Super 2, and Francona and Antonetti. I don't know however you want to equalize blame. Neither of them have indicated any interest in making a move when they so clearly should for Holt or for Ramsey. So I don't know which one. I think it's probably Lindor, and I think that's 2 weeks from now, and I think that's like 5 weeks too late. So
Walters? Could it be Walters?
They should have called Walters up when he was healthy, and I hope it's Walters, but where does Walters fit? Like, he replaces Aviles, and like Aviles is blocking somebody with legit power who isn't that much worse defensively and has something for that. So I don't see it.
Well, our next day off is Monday. Maybe we'll see something then. Nino, what do you think? Who's the next guy we're going to see? Or are we 2 weeks away from Lindor being the next guy, or are they going to do something sooner, other than Swisher? I think maybe Swisher's the guy, but beyond him.
Well, yeah, because I think because that next move is Swisher, I think Mike's right. It's probably Lindor. It should be Holt. It should have been Holt. You know, the day that you said, okay, Brantley's having back issues. When are we going to sit Bourne? And if that's the situation, then okay, who's playing in center field? So it should have been Holt 2 weeks ago. It should be Holt. It should still be Holt, because what if Michael Bourne pulls his hamstring here? You know, going for a fly ball. You're gonna put Aviles there, and then that goes into the. Not gonna talk about that anymore.
Yeah, Holt can play all 3 outfield positions.
Yeah,
he can play them all.
Exactly.
And he can play them all really well. Oh. Yeah. All right. Well, there's no use prolonging this. Let's end on a positive note. Let's talk real quick about the rotation. I really want to talk about Salazar right now, but I want to wait to see what happens first. But rotation looks good. I know we've seen some bumps. I think you're going to have that, especially when the offense has been struggling. We got 4 solid. Mike, you put up a good piece about the number 5, TJ House. I really think this rotation's good, and I think it's going to be good. Are you guys worried at all about the rotation at all? Depth? Are you worried about Salazar continuing? Kluber's bumps in the road those last 2 starts? Gosh, Carlos Carrasco, man. How can he not be everybody's favorite starting pitcher at this point?
Yeah. They're awesome. Like, this is awesome. I love watching good starting pitching every night. I like it more when I see runs, but Kluber's struggled a little bit. He's always struggled in April a little bit. Carrasco's been awesome. He showed that the leap he made last year is for real to me right now. I think I was worried about that, and he looks real. And Bowers making an awesome leap. And last night, he put on the big man pants. He did not have anything compared to what he normally has, and he competed his butt off.
God, what a great sign that is. Trevor Bauer being tenacious on the mound. I mean, just doesn't seem to be that guy, but ever since he's been a starter, even in the bad year, he seems to have that it factor. You know what I mean? Like that drive. I was so impressed last night. 30s, I was 30% of what I could be. Like, how about that? Like, I love that.
And lastly, before I let Nino go, which he needs to, let him go. But everybody knows that I'm in love with Danny Salazar, and that's okay. I'm really sick of people riding Danny Salazar, and I don't care how he pitches tonight. He's a really good big league pitcher, and it's because he has a plus fastball, and he has one of the 5 best changeups in baseball. And if the curveball, whatever third pitch he throws, is just like league average, maybe even a tick below, he's a really good pitcher. I don't care what happened in spring training. He's given me 2 really good starts against, Tiger's start was pretty good. That was really good against a really good offense. And he is a special talent, and when he's your 4th starter, that's awesome. House, I think, is fine, and this rotation will keep him around through July, and if they write the bullpen, the lineup's going to be fine. So it's the rotation's done enough to make me really optimistic about all these guys reaching,
Yeah, and when you're talking about 4 deep, because this rotation is, you have 4 people that I think you can rely on. You're gonna stay in it for a while, even if your offense is still kind of finding their footing, and you're still trying to find the pieces that work in the bullpen. But Mike, you're in love with Danny Salazar. I'm in love with Trevor Bauer. From putting on boxing gloves to in the first game against the Royals to
I'm still
building
dude,
up droid.
The drone. I'm sorry, drone, but yeah. I can't wait I can't wait for the day where he's like pitching and he turns around and like pulls the drone thing out, and while he's on the mound, like that's the best.
I'm in love with it. I think he's got. I said it in the off season. I think that he's going to take that step this year from a guy that he was young, he's got a lot of promise and a lot of upside, and he starts to really put it together and really steps up and is really pitches like the backup to what Kluber is the number 1 on this team. So I love Trevor Bauer. I think and I'm glad to see that he is putting it together and going out there when he's at 30% because he's got food poisoning and just saying, all right, I'm going to do what I can to keep my team in the game, because that's what a pitcher does. Even on his, that's what a good pitcher does. Even on his bad days, he doesn't have it. Yep, he just throws it out there. I remember thinking back to that year that CC Sabathia finally kind of put it all together. There was times where he was just outright dominant, and there was times where he didn't have his stuff, but he was still going out there going 7 innings, giving up a run.
That's a really good comp. I like that comp a lot. They don't look at all alike. Obviously, but there's a lot of similarities there.
Can I one more? I think with Bauer making the leap and how good Carrasco's been, Kluber's going to be fine. There's a really good chance that you have 3 of the top 20 pitchers in Major League Baseball in your rotation.
How many rotations can? How many rotations have 4 guys that very easily can drop 10 Ks and walk 3 or 2?
The Nationals. One other team.
And your point with TJ House, Mike, in your piece this week, he struggled, but how much of that is just situation? He had to start for Bauer on Saturday. Just kind of getting thrown out there. Who can pitch well under that situation? He's kind of in that rubber band mode right now where he's starting after 7 days off. He's getting thrown out there instead of the other guy because he happens not to be one of the top 4 guys.
Yeah, people weather on guys so quickly. I'm so tired.
He was so good. If you look at go ahead, Nino.
Yeah, no, I'm just agreeing. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, he was so. I don't think people realize how good he was last year. You got to look at his numbers last year. He's fantastic. With that said, let's kind of close up shop here. I shut the game off, so I don't know what happened. Don't tell me. We're going to be back pretty regularly. I've got another podcast tonight with Steve Urbanek and Ed Carroll. We're going to be on pretty regularly, so if you're watching us live, if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're listening to us on iTunes, make sure you check back regularly. We've got Nino here. You can check him out on his website, thetribedaily.com, and you can also check him out at everybodyhatescleveland.com. Mike, of course, is got a regular column every week, Trend Spotting, and I'm in and out with all kinds of stuff. I'll be potting, I'll be posting, I'll be doing all kinds of stuff as well. Mike, plug time. You got anything to plug?
I do. I actually have this thing we're kind of launching this weekend. I'm doing a sabermetrics podcast with Nick Schauer and Nick Wheatley-Schauer and Adam Burke, who are two really, really good saber minds. Nick is an awesome researcher who works for Baseball Prospectus. He's the Indian business of sabermetrics, and if you're analytical or into that stuff at all, I get to talk to two super, super smart people in that industry, and I'm really excited about that. So check that out. It's worth the time.
Yeah, and I guess a year ago when I started this site, and Mike and I have been friends for a while. We've been talking about bridging the gap a little bit with sabermetrics. This isn't what that pod is, but I highly recommend it to people who aren't sabermetrics guys. Give these guys a listen. The reason why I like Mike, Adam, Nick, a lot of our saber guys, Ed, when he talks Indians baseball, is it. Through varying degrees, you can understand what they're talking about. So give that podcast a listen when you get an opportunity, and also make sure you give them a read. I still say Adam Burke's one of the best writers out there. He hasn't been writing a lot over the past year and a half since the Cleveland fan went down, but his piece drops every Sunday or Saturday morning. Actually Friday or Saturday at midnight. So make sure you check Burke's piece out. And Mike's kind of floating around, and Nick's kind of floating around as well. But that leads us to you, Nino. You've been writing a lot, man. You disappeared for a while. You got anything? You got anything you want to? I hope I can take a little bit of credit and maybe spurring you on. You were one of the first people I reached out to. You got anything to plug coming up, or maybe someone else?
Yeah, grad school took a little bit of my time, and I also kind of got tired of doing the same old thing. So, I give you a little credit for kind of lighting a little bit of a fire under me and getting it going. Yeah, so on the blog I got Indians high-low after every series, just kind of quick. Like, all right, this is what was good, this is what was bad, and that stuff goes up at the end of every series. It's almost the end of April, and I did this thing during spring training where I did the best of spring training at 2 points. So after every month now, we're going to do the 10 best of the month. So that'll be up on the blog, and I am for Everybody Hates Cleveland. I'm trying to think of something to write a little bit more longer Indians related, but got a book review here of The Smartest Book in the World by Greg Proops that's coming up. He talks a lot of baseball, which is really interesting, and we're going to have a few questions that he's going to answer, and we're going to talk a little bit about the book. A lot of baseball, and a lot of it does have a little bit of a Cleveland connection because he talks a lot about Satchel Paige, who is his absolute hero. So that's a lot of interesting stuff there. So that should be coming within the next week or so up on EHC.
So, if you haven't noticed, just from this podcast, we've got our. This is just, I guess, if this were a painting, this is a Picasso. We don't really know what EHC is going to turn into. Right now, we're very Indian-centric. I don't honestly believe we have, and I mean, I'm not gonna hit people in the head with this. If you're listening, I promise it'll be short. But if you haven't checked it out and you happen upon this podcast, www.everybodyhatescleveland.com. Listen, I'm a fan more than I am a writer. I like to write, but I'll tell you something. If there's a site that has better writers than our site right now, I don't know where it is. So check us out. Check out the podcasts. And we're going to be around. We're going to be on Tribe Time Now podcasts. We're going to be on Sports Fix. Actually, we already are. We got 2 writers on there already, Dan Wismar and Jonathan Knight. So you're going to be hearing from us whether you want to or not. So make sure you check us out. So that's everybodyhatescleveland.com, the podcast. We'll be back sooner than you probably want. Have a good one. Go Cleveland.